Introduction. Social disorganization is a failure of social institutions such as schools, businesses, police, etc. in a community. It can be directly linked to crime rates because individuals in disadvantaged neighborhoods participate in delinquent actions because it is a behavior that provides them with wealth and power that may not be otherwise readily accessible in a legal manner because of the failure in social institutions in that particular community. Social disorganization theory and cultural transmission theory examine the consequences when a community is unable to conform to common values and to solve the problems of its residents. According to Shaw and McKay from 1942, the theory of systematic criminal behavior claimed that delinquency was not caused at the individual level, but is a normal response by normal individuals to abnormal conditions. Thus, if a community is not self-policing and imperfectly policed by outside agencies, some individuals will exercise unrestricted freedom to express their dispositions and desires, often resulting in delinquent behavior. They considered the concentric zone theory and produced a diachronic analysis to demonstrate that delinquency was already dispersed in urban areas and that more wealthy and important groups moved to avoid the existing social disorganization. Social disorganization relates to such criminal behavior and its evolution through the breakdown of the society as organized crime. Organized crime groups can step into a community and provide product as well as the ability for those in poverty to find some type of success in unreachable though conventional means. An area where there is lack of production in a certain commodity, individuals will be more inclined to get involved in the production of an illegal item to make profits. As the demand for a service or production grows, the criminal organization will evolve. Social disorganization leading to organized crime can come from family deterioration, where individuals will join organized gangs for a replacement family to belong to, and criminal acts become a part of life in this gang. Crime rates are very high in cities that have deterioration in social and family areas that link to social disorganization to criminality. Lyman and Potter, 2007. If the lack of community support is prevalent, organized crime groups can come in and obtain control of the area, giving them the ability to continue deviant behavior with little or no risk of retaliation from law enforcement. Understanding psychological factors. Sometimes the cause for social disorganization is to be found in the human psychology itself. Psychological factors contribute to disorganization in two ways. One, failure to maintain proper communication among fellow beings, and two, failure to modify or change one's attitudes in tune with the demands of time. Communication is an essential psychological process among human beings. It is maintained through social processes such as imitation, cooperation, competition, suggestion, conflict, accommodation, assimilation, and so on, which are also psychological in character. Common understanding and common consciousness help the people to maintain communication. Due to the lack of common consensus regarding values and due to divergent attitudes, people may fail to maintain proper communication among themselves. Words, ideas, phrases and symbols that they use in their communication may sound different things to them. Thus, the lack of appropriate communication or its total failure may create ill will, prejudice, and a lot of psychological distance among people. 2. The problem with attitude. Human tendencies and attitudes are modified very slowly, whereas culture is modified with comparative rapidity. The socio-cultural environment may impose many requirements on individuals that they may find difficult to fulfill. For example, the modern industrialized and urbanized society is so competitive that some find it extremely difficult to cope with it. Similarly, the cultural conflict between the older and younger generation may result in disorganization of the adolescents, juvenile delinquency, and sometimes even in family disorganization. Conflicts of attitudes between the old and new values are always pregnant with trends of disorganization. Explaining cultural lag. The term cultural lag refers to the fact that culture takes time to catch up with technological innovations, resulting in social problems. The concept cultural lag was used by W.E. Ogburn and refers to the imbalance in the rate and speed of change between the material cultural and non-material culture. Objects of material culture such as mode of housing, means of transport and communication, types of dresses, patterns of ornaments, technical and mechanical devices, instruments and others change very quickly. But ideas, beliefs, attitudes, tastes, philosophies, habits, ideologies, institutional structures, and other aspects of non-material culture change slowly and gradually. Hence, a gap or a lag arises between the material and non-material culture. This lag, referred to as cultural lag, invites the process of disorganization to set in. For example, though a good number of Indians have adopted Western technology, they have not very much changed their traditional beliefs, attitudes, and customs. This quality has often led to some conflicts which have opened the doors for disorganization. An example of cultural lag are the human embryonic stem cells. We have the necessary technology to turn stem cells into neurons, but have not yet developed ethical guidelines and cultural consensus on this practice. According to Ogburn, cultural lag is a common societal phenomenon due to the tendency of material culture to evolve and change rapidly and voluminously, while non-material culture tends to resist change and remain fixed for a far longer period of time. Due to the opposing nature of these two aspects of culture, adaptation of new technology becomes rather difficult. Material culture. In the social sciences, material culture is a term developed in the late 19th and early 20th century, and it refers to the relationship between artifacts and social relations. Innovation. The act of innovating, the introduction of something new in customs, rights, and so on. Non-material culture. In contrast to material culture, non-material culture does not include any physical objects or artifacts. Examples of non-material culture include ideas, beliefs, values, and norms that may help shape our society. Taking an example, cultural lag can occur when technological innovation outspaces cultural adaptation. For example, when cars were first invented, there were not yet any laws to govern driving, no speed limits, no guidelines who had the right of way at intersections, no lane markers, no stop signs, and so on. As you can imagine, the result was chaos. City streets became incredibly dangerous. Laws soon were written to address this problem, closing the gap. Know why social problems leading to social organization. Social problems and forces such as revolution, social upheaval, class struggle, financial or economic crisis, war between nations, mental illness, political corruption, mounting unemployment and crime, and so on, threaten the smooth working of society. Social problems are the diseases of the society, and they threaten the welfare of the society. They may bring in disorganization. As a developing nation, India has observed endless social problems, one leading to the other. However, one major social problem is illiteracy. This is caused by many other social problems like child marriage, poverty, child labor, gender discrimination, and so on. If this is not dealt with early enough, it will lead to many other social issues as well and will continue to be a hindrance in development of the country. India has become an independent country, a republic, and this happened more than half a century ago. During this period, the country has been engaged in efforts to attain development and growth in various areas like building infrastructure, production of food grains, science and technology, and the spread of education. Life expectancy has increased. Many diseases have been controlled. However, there are many areas in which the Indian society is still experiencing a variety of problems. Some of these problems have their roots in our colonial past, while others are related to demographic changes, social political conditions, and cultural processes. This chapter attempts to acquaint you with some of the problems and psychological factors involved. You will learn about some of the possible ways in which psychological interventions can help in dealing with these problems. Social problems in India require deep insight into the rich heritage and culture of the country. It is deep-rooted in the Indian heritage, and from that, it has outgrown to a serious crime prevailing within the boundaries. Gender discrimination is undoubtedly one of those social problems in India that is causing an uncertain imbalance in the society. Issues like female infanticide, exploitation, illiteracy, maternal mortality, dowry deaths are all throbbing discrimination of women that India is currently subjecting to. In all the fields and walks of life, women are becoming the key targets of various kinds of atrocities. Unemployment is yet another issue that is pushing many people under the poverty line. With increasing price of necessary resources for life, unemployed people are unable to fetch themselves and for their families. Increasing competition in the business and the job sector is aggravating unemployment conditions in India. Further to that, social evils in India like corruption, illiteracy, and urbanization is also making the condition horrible for people living in the Indian society. All these social issues need a careful analysis and demand a rational solution to help the society grow in all possible ways. There has to be an end to these social problems in India, or else the growth and development of the country will be at stake. Let us see how to differentiate disintegration and confusion of roles. Members of the society are expected to perform certain roles in accordance with their placement in the society. Due to profound social changes, these expectations also undergo a change. Consequently, people are confused with regard to their new roles. Professor Faris considers this as the most important cause of disorganization. According to him, it is due to the transition from pre-industrial folk society to the most modern complex society. Let's take an example. Children are to be cared for, and essential cultural education to be given to them by family. The economic order is assumed to provide for production and distribution of wealth and goods. Religious institutions, however, are expected to maintain their religious heritage and pass on the same to the succeeding generation. When any of these functions are not completely performed, disorganization may be the result. This confusion frequently occurs when the roles each person has in a given relationship are either poorly defined or inappropriately cross over into the expectations of other roles and its definitions. One need not be an expert in psychology to recognize that all of us engage in one role or the other at all times in specific situations and with specific individuals. Such roles serve a very important purpose to the extent that a particular relationship or interpersonal transaction becomes largely circumscribed by what specific role a particular set of actors choose to adopt and then act out between them. If a person comes to me for help and I am at work, then I may confirm that person's role expectation of me by getting into the role of a clinical psychologist. This is neither good nor bad, but simply is the most effective, efficient, and ethical way for me to do what's appropriately expected of me. Now, if that person is a machinist and I need a part to be custom made for a piece of equipment, then it makes sense that I ought to get into that role as may be appropriate of a prospective consumer. Were I to be stuck or fixated in my earlier role of a mental health professional, chances are that the person would not know if he should get into the role of a client or an expert tradesman. This is a typical example of role confusion. So too with other relationships, when we adopt one role indiscriminately for all situations, or we adopt all roles for the same situation, we fail to adapt to the variable needs, wants, or requirements which characterize ongoing relationships. By getting locked into a role, or by not getting into the role necessary, or even by getting into too many roles, our relationships are definitely set up for failure. Expectations become violated, feelings get hurt because our perceptions confirm our thoughts. Regard to our relationships, they aren't acting themselves. And so we react to our confusion by backing off. The challenge is to develop expertise with each particular role, but keep each role separate from the other and always be respectful and vigilant of the potential for the development of any dual relationship. Now, when this challenge is met, role expectancies do not become violated from role contamination because others learn to expect and then to know in vivo where you're coming from, as do you in relation to. If there is any role confusion, then there will likely be a confusion of all the roles and all the rules. If there is no role confusion, then there will be very likely no confusion of any of the roles and any of the rules. Role confusion is always extremely confusing and generally should be avoided at all costs. Otherwise, the effect on our society would be major. No other factors, physical or geographic factors. The maladjustment of man and his culture to certain extraordinary physical or geographic conditions or situations may also cause disorganization in society. This is especially true in the case of natural calamities such as storms, cyclones, hurricanes, famines, floods, earthquakes, volcanoes, epidemics, and so on, which upset the social balance and bring in social disorganization. Biological factor. Population explosion or extreme scarcity of population. The instances of racial intermixture, defective hereditary traits, and such other biological factors may also cause disorganizing effects upon society. For example, if overpopulation has caused the problems of poverty and unemployment in some countries, the fact of underpopulation has created a psychological crisis manifested in what is known as race extinction. Ecological factor. Social disorganization is related to environment and terms of regions and neighborhoods. Professor Shaw and his associates at the Institute of Juvenile Research in Chicago found that delinquency was unevenly distributed in the city of Chicago. They observed that the delinquents mostly concentrated in the areas of poor housing, overcrowding, and the areas in which cinema houses, hotels, nightclubs, liquor shops, gambling centers were found in a large number. Some findings have revealed that per capita crime rate is relatively higher in larger cities than in smaller ones. Degeneration of values. Social values are often regarded as the sustaining forces of society. They contribute to the strength and stability of the social order. But due to rapid social change, new values come up and some of the old values decline. At the same time, people are not in a position to reject the old completely and accept the new altogether. Here, conflict between the old and the new is an inevitable result of which leads to the social disorganization. Changes in social values necessitate new social institutions and associations. These come into conflict with other, older, existing ones, and this creates disorder in society. The statuses and roles of people will have to change in accordance with the changes in social values. But they take time to adjust themselves to new situations. In this way, disorganization spreads. According to Sorokin, this cause for social disorganization is nothing but degeneration of values in various spheres such as art, science, philosophy, religion, law, politics, economics, family, etc., which has led to more wars, criminality, revolution, suicide, mental diseases, and so on. Political subordination. Political subordination of one country to another leads to social disorganization in the former. The vanquished country is not allowed to develop its economy and institution in its own ways. It is made a means to serve the interests of the dominant country. India suffered under the British rule in the same manner. The dominant country may not even care for the basic needs such as food, clothing, shelter, basic education, medical facility, etc. of the people of a slave country. As a result, the slave country may have to face a number of socio-economic problems. Conflict of goals and means. Conflict of goals and the means for achieving the same may also cause disorganization. Most of the individuals share the dominant goals of the society and act accordingly. Lacking the means for achieving the goals by legitimate means, some may even resort to illegitimate and illegal means, resulting in vice, crime, and other expression of social disorganization. Decline of social control. The declining control of religion, morals, customs, traditions, and other institutions on the behavior of men has also enhanced the process of disorganization. Hence, we witness an increase in interpersonal conflicts, crimes, tensions, divorce, delinquency, mental derangement, and so on. In fact, according to Thomas and Znanecki, the very decrease of the influence of existing rule of behavior upon the individual members of the group itself indicates social disorganization. Extreme divisions of labor. According to MLA Durkheim, social disorganization is often brought about by extreme division of labor. In normal course, according to him, division of labor leads to social solidarity, but when it becomes extreme and very complex, solidarity may become disturbed. Conclusion. Society undergoes change mainly due to the operation of physical, biological, technological, and cultural factors. Sudden and radical social changes may sometimes disrupt the stability and the organization of the society. The result is social disorganization. Remedial measures. To face the challenges of a social disorganization, it is necessary first of all to study the nature and gravity of the social disorganization. Depending on its nature, steps should be taken to counteract its influence. In this connection, we may suggest the following remedial measures. 1. Able and efficient administration to fight against the disruptive forces. 2. Proper and comprehensive social and economic planning and policies. 3. Proper implementation of the plans and policies. 4. Organized social work and social welfare activities and social security measures. 5. Appropriate steps to rehabilitate and reform the beggars, criminals, juvenile delinquents, prostitutes, mentally and physically handicapped, the aged, and the diseased persons. 6. Effective enforcement of land reforms, fixing a ceiling on urban property, making effective and attractive family planning and welfare programs and projects. 8. Providing ample education and employment opportunities, especially for the spread of diseases. 9. To create a psychological atmosphere of security and confidence, assuring and providing social equality, justice, and liberty to all. 10. Taking steps to mobilize public opinion against the evil practices of bribery, corruption, casteism, communalism, racism, exploitation, etc. 11. Instilling in the minds of people sentiments of unity, solidarity, patriotism, and nationalism by making use of mass media of communication in the best possible manner.